So, it's always a great way. So, right? Feels like that's the what's the that awkward moment? The so? That's when you know a relationship is getting serious. So what are we? So, what are we doing? So, you want to meet my parents? That's when it gets to like the real stuff, right? So Bryce Young and Dave Canales. So, what are we? So, is this for real? Is this for long term? Should I start ring shopping? Dave Canales and Bryce Young are friends. How nice is that? Well, first of all, and there's a reason why I'm making this particular analogy. They are part of what I call the four horsemen of the franchise. Owner, GM, head coach, quarterback have to be in alignment. They have to trust each other with their professional lives. They have to. And if there's something off in that chain of events, nothing else works. Everything in the franchise grows from that stem. So Dave Canales going to Bryce Young's youth camp a couple of days ago became big news. Multiple articles about it. ESPN, The Athletic, Twitter responses. It's all over the place. The Athletic had an article. It started with, as he walked out to the football field at Johnson C. Smith University for his football camp on a sunny Saturday morning, Bryce Young spotted his head coach standing on the sideline. That was the first sentence in the article. Xavier Legette was also there. A couple other players were also there. Hundreds of kids were also there. But it was like a meet cute, right? Bryce Young walked out of the tunnel and he locked eyes with his coach. Why? Because that relationship has gone through a lot, and that's why everybody's excited about it. There was, I don't know if people remember this, because it's time heals all wounds and out of sight, out of mind, and we've dealt with like a Stanley Cup playoff run and all these other things. Dave Canales benched Bryce Young last year. And by the way, the only reason Bryce was put back in, at least by the way it was told to us, is because Andy Dalton got in a car accident. And then for weeks, when Bryce was playing well and Bryce was leading drives that could potentially win the game and he was playing well, Dave Canales refused to name him the starter moving forward. There was a lot of dodging in those post-game press conferences.
We'll gather all the information. Yeah, we'll make a decision later this week.
For this week. It wasn't even like we'll make a decision for the rest of it was like week by week. Now coming into this year, everybody's like, Canales gets his hands on Bryce for another year. Look at how exciting this is. Canales is showing up outside the youth camp. These guys are two peas in a pod. It hasn't been 10 months since Bryce was at least frustrated with the decision that Dave Canales made. Canales had this to say about their relationship, and this was at the camp, again, according to The Athletic. It's about this love and respect factor that we've grown with each other through hard times. Bryce, during the season, showed me his leadership, showed me that even when we were a struggling team, even when I took him out, he stayed in the center of it and he continued to lead. And for him to have the respect to say, look, I don't agree with your decision, coach, but working together to continue to grow this thing means so much. That's, first of all, coaches love that kind of stuff, right? They love when the quarterback gets benched, but he's still showing up to practice raw, like, all ready to roll, not sulking. Coaches love that. Then there's this other thing that happened right at the end of the year, right? The last game, Bryce Young, and I've been, middle of the road on Bryce for about his entire career in regards to how everyone's swayed on the spectrum. That Atlanta game was bananas. Like, just call a spade a spade. He lit it up.
5 touchdowns.
Yeah, and felt like 17 touchdowns in that game. It was Oprah was, you get a touchdown, and you get a touchdown, and I get a touchdown, and he was running for him, throwing for him, he's doing it all. After that game, Canales finally said, like, hey, we got our guy. Bryce, on that comment from Canales, I appreciate the support. I'm grateful for the staff and for the team, obviously. Just believing in me and us going forward together, we all have a goal to win. There was a time where their relationship had to be repaired. I'm not sure, because we're not there on the day-to-day, it is fully repaired. There was a time where Bryce, I guarantee you, because you don't end up Bryce Young without being wildly competitive. Matter of fact, you don't even become a quarterback without having a pretty sizable ego. Think about the decision you make. And I played quarterback in college, so, maybe I'm wrestling with some things here. But like when you're 9 years old, you're looking at all your friends and going, one of us is going to have the ball every play. I think it should be me. That's the decision you make, right? The offensive linemen, the receivers, they don't have as much input into the outcome of the game. So Bryce thinks highly of himself, whether he says so publicly or not. He's got some ego. And during the season last year, Dave Canales said, the best thing we can do for our team is take you out. And then he did it. That relationship is going to need to be repaired from there. And I'm just going to call it like this. They don't have to be friends. Trust and respect are a requirement, right? And I think if they come out on the other side of this, and by all accounts it looks like they are, they're hanging out at a youth camp together, which, by the way, Dave Canales brought his two daughters. They wore football gloves. I guess they were joining in, and Dave Canales was involved in talking with he wasn't just there to watch, he was there and participating and hanging out. I give Bryce a ton of credit for keeping the respect. Being benched is not easy. I can't imagine what it's like to be benched with as many eyeballs and spotlights on him as he had. And to be able to keep the big picture and say, I genuinely think I respect coach's decision. I think he's doing what he thinks is best for the team, rather than lash out and say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. First-time coach. The heck are we doing? He was only a coordinator for 1 year. That's big on Bryce. I give Canales a ton of credit for keeping the trust. Because once you see a quarterback do what Bryce Young was doing on tape his rookie year in the first 2 games of his second year, which led to the benching, there are a lot of coaches that'll just write you off. Go, I only get one shot at being a head coach. This might never come my way again. I am not depending on you regardless of what you look like. He gave Bryce the opportunity, as slow and as maybe reluctant as he was at the beginning. He gave him the opportunity to come back into it, to play his way back into the plans. Now, do you know what's the next step? Put that bad boy under pressure. Right? It's real easy to say, oh yeah, we had rough times last year, but now we're great in June. There's no pressure cooker like an NFL season. There's no pressure cooker like an NFL season. Every NFL game has the same importance as 10 Major League Baseball games, right? Just breaking down 162, or actually it used to be, it's a little less now because they play 17 games. That's a stat I've been saying for a decade. That's going to be hard to break. But it's essentially 5 NBA games. Every game. There's no pressure cooker like the NFL. Can these guys keep that respect, keep that trust when it's ramped up to 100 on a scale of 1 to 10? And then eventually, right, I do think friendship does come for coaches and quarterbacks, but that's after, like, legacies are secured. Like, I think Sean Payton and Drew Brees probably can get together and play golf as buddies, but, a Super Bowl and 1 billion records will fix that. I don't know if Brady and Belichick will. That might be a different beast.